is identity at the center.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Oh, not so bad yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited about today's episode. Every once in a while, you get a founder who really takes technology and solves a real-world problem. I mean, you and I have been doing identity strategy for a long time, and one of the things we always say, how do you know who's calling the help desk actually is who they say they are, right? And how often do we get a good answer? Hardly ever. I think we're going to talk about technology today that, could turn that on its head.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a question that typically comes up is I've asked it so many times in our, client engagement and things like that, and there's never really been a good answer. But this is a sponsored episode that I am actually very happy about, because not that I'm not happy about the other ones, but this is one that solves a real world problem that I have seen come up multiple times. How do you know someone is calling the help desk? And so to that end, we do have a sponsored episode today. It is with Trusona. It is with the founder and CEO of Trusona, Eisen. So welcome back to the show, Ori, because this is actually your second time being with us.
Thank you for having me again. I'm super honored and excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're excited to have you here. Trusona.com/IDAC. We're going to have some content there that we're going to kind of talk about through this. You were kind enough to give us a demo, so we might refer to that as we go through the conversation here. And it's recorded there, so we have kind of our own little IDAC spin on that into the demo world that people will be able to visit there. But I'm not going to ask you how you got into identity, because we already asked you that question back in 2023, believe it or not. So about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years ago. We were at the Authenticate conference and you came in, sat down with us. So what I want to find out is what's been happening since 2023. Tell us a little bit about Trusona, and then we're going to get into ATO Protect here in a minute.
What happened is, after 8 years of developing the no passwords solution, as you can see, even my shirt is still saying that, many customers asked a simple question. What happens when someone calls in and says, I lost my hardware key. I lost my MFA. I don't have a device with the passwordless. Let me in. Hear me out. Even if you take every single employee in a company and you completely retrofit them with passwordless authentication, which I think is an amazing idea, the problem that still exists is when hackers call in and say, I don't have that thing you want me to have. Now what? So by talking to customers, we realized at Trusona that the last gaping hole in the whole passwordless strategy is, I don't have it. Help me. And you can see that the call quickly turns to an identity verification effort as opposed to authentication. To be crisp about that, if MFA works perfectly, you don't need what we're about to talk about, because people get in and out of systems all day long. But if you're on vacation and your phone falls in the ocean, you just go to, let's just say, the Apple store, and you get a new iPhone. You now need to get back to your business. However, you don't have that thing that you need in order to get back in there. Why would they give you access? How would you prove to them that it is you, Jeff or Jim, or one of our listeners here on the other end? And when you add to it, what happened 2 years ago that we have to insert into this conversation is the word Gen AI. When we sat at Authenticate 2 years ago, I guess ChatGPT just started and people kind of thought about it as a textual tool. If you look at what Scattered Spider are doing as we speak here, as we're recording this episode, simply are calling your IT help desk, claiming to be the CISO even, with your voice, or your CEO with their own voice that they've sampled. And good luck to the IT help desk agent to know, is this the CEO berating me to reset their password or not? That is what's new and different.
Well, as someone who's been on that call where, you've got people calling and it's like, okay, read it, you're trying to authenticate callers, et cetera. I remember when you showed this to me, and this is something you've actually been working on for, I think, maybe a year and a half or something like that. But I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. So tell me a little bit about what it is about ATO Protect. And when we say ATO, we're talking about account takeover. And so the goal here is to, know that it is Jim calling me and not someone to pretend to be Jim, et cetera. So my jaded CISO hat tells me I've got so many security tools out there. Cool, Ori. Like, why do I need another tool in my stack?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about ATO Protect specifically, and what do you think makes it different from other solutions that are, kind of trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, I love this, and I love this conversation as a practitioner's talk, because you should ask me and everybody else who comes on the show, do I really need another tool? I mean, we have a toolorama everywhere you go with so many beeps and bops and reports. It's actually becoming harder to know what's going on because of all the chaff, right? As opposed to the signal. To answer your question, I'll say this. Identity and authentication have been close friends, enemies, frenemies, cousins. They were never thought of as the same thing. Let me prove it to you. You can sign up for a Gmail account today without them really knowing if it's you or Jim. They just don't care to know. As long as you have a unique handle, you can stay anonymous. There's zero identity proofing or identity verification in those kind of processes. Think about your Netflix account. If you paid with a credit card that was prepaid and was anonymous, they would also not know who you are. However, when you call an IT help desk, or we'll talk about other use cases that a company could have. For example, you're interviewing somebody to come work for you. You want to make sure they are who they say they are. When a vendor calls your accounts payable and say, we changed the bank account, so send us the next invoice to this new bank. Now it's not about authentication. It's about, wait, who is telling me to do this? Who is the true identity on the other side? So the reason you might need another tool is if it will focus on the IT help desk, even though you can see that there's other things around it. When someone calls and they cannot authenticate perfectly, you are turning the problem from, do you have the credentials I gave you, to, I need to know who you are before I do anything. Anything could be reset that password, reset your MFA, give you privileged access, or do anything that is seriously risky because I can't really tell who's calling me. We have in our industry all kinds of tools for account verification for our customers. For example, if you're a bank and you open credit card accounts or a DDA accounts, yeah, you scan documents and you do checks and liveness, you do all those things when you open a consumer account. I doubt that you do the same things today with your employees. And I doubt that you do the same thing when an employee comes in without MFA.
Yeah, it feels like I'm so interested to get your take on this, but it feels like when Jeff and I would ask this question 10 years ago in that workforce identity situation, it was something like, okay, how are you verifying people? And it would be like, well, we asked them their badge number, and then who did they sit next to? Like knowledge base. So we say, okay, well, that's a big red X. That's not good. But then you see organizations that, well, we text them a special number, then ask them to read it off to us, or we email that code to the email address we have on file in their HR system. And so you say, okay, that's out of band. Could it be broken? Probably. But, you'd have to be a super hacker. Today, I'm not even so sure that that's true. Like, give us your perspective on that email to or SMS kind of scenario. Is that good enough?
Well, let's do this. Anybody who listens to this podcast, I assume, reads the news from the security world. If you don't, just open your favorite search engine, put in these two words, scattered spider, together. It's the name of a cyber gang. Pick up any article and go read their MO, their modus operandi, and the answer will be there. Let me tell you what they're doing and why the answer is absolutely not Jim. Their favorite tactic is what's called SIM swap. And what that means is they would call your telephone company. And again, if there's no hackers in the audience, you can derive who my telephone company is by the first 6 digits of my phone. It's not a secret. You can tell if I'm with Verizon or AT&T, not a problem. You would call my telephone company as a precursor to the attack and basically tell them that you are me and you got a new phone and you want to port the SIM. You want to SIM swap the phone. And what happens if they fall for this? And let me explain to you why they do all the time. All the text messages you're about to send me, Jim, will actually go to the bad guy, not to me anymore. Let's take it slow. The first step is to snip out the real customer from the traffic, so they're not even aware that the OTP, the one-time passcode you just sent me, did not reach them. Now I'm going to take a step backward. This is not, don't try this at home, kids. I'm not teaching you how to hack, but I just want you to know why this happens and why you have zero control over it. If you're a CISO listening, you can't control AT&T's processes. You can't control Verizon. They will do whatever their script says in the call center, and unfortunately, they might ask me things like my mother's maiden name and my last four of my social and my date of birth to prove to them that I am Ori, the telephone owner, before they SIM swap me. So good luck with that. This is step one in how Scattered Spider get you to operate as if you are sending it to the real employee, but if you're not checking first, is this phone recently SIM swapped, you're duped. You're none the wiser. You're now sending all the stuff directly to the bad guy. I'll pause here.
No, that's exactly. And to think that is that uncommon. I mean, when you hear about these scatter spider attacks, that's the exact pattern that's used, and it leads to some really catastrophic data breaches and beyond data breaches, where you get to the point where you can really have an operational impact on a company. Given that kind of backdrop, because I'm a true believer, this is not something that is some kind of far out, that's never going to happen to me kind of scenario. It very well could. If you don't have the right protections, and look, I don't want to say company names, but some of the household name breaches that you've heard of, they started very much in that way.
Exactly.
I guess we have, what I really want to ask you, Ori, is like, how does your ATO Protect product prevent that? I mean, what can you guys do?
Let me just go back a second to answer your question about email. I just want you to see what is the pre-step there. I already explained in the phone world, you do a SIM swap. In the email, there's an easier path. If I imagine a bank that has 40,000 employees, I call one of them and say, hey, I'm calling you from the IT department at the bank. I need to install something so we can help you next time. Now, how will the employee ever know if I'm really working at the bank or not? So unfortunately, some people take the lure, allow me to get complete access to their computer, and now I can get their emails. So if you sent me the email in the chain we talked about before, I'm now getting that as well. I just want you to know how it's done. Yes, am I foreshadowing what the ATO Protect does? Yes, but I want you to understand the why. Because we've spoken to enough CISOs and enough customers that told us all the different ways they were taken down. And we've done a thing that is a little bit to our detriment. So I want to be very upfront about that. When I speak to some of the analysts in our field, without mentioning company names, they basically said you've created something that is a Franken solution, in the sense that it is not focused in any specific domain or expertise. It is by taking 5 different domains and putting them together that we are not really a fit to any magic quadrant, if you want to think about it that way, because we're not like this one thing. So I'll explain how we do what we do. But the key is that we did not start with like, what are we good at? And let's try to convince you to buy that, which is unfortunately how our world is. It is taking 2 steps back. It was about 18 months ago, Jim. Listen to all the MOs, all the attack vectors that are happening after the MGM breach, and say, if you were to sell the solution to the CISO, not a point of I can do this or that, what will that look like? It forced us to be good at document scanning, telcos, DMVs, different data brokers, realizing that there was a man-in-the-middle attack perpetrated a second ago. All these things together, plus did somebody call your employee without you even knowing, right? Have amalgamated into this ATO Protect, because it really protects from ATOs in the different permutations they can take. So I'll let you ask the next question, but the key is that if Trusona started its journey by saying we need to go passwordless, and I still think the world should, and at the end of that journey realized, oh my God, if everybody had passwordless, but the bad guy just needs to say, well, I don't have the passwordless, let me in. We are now solving that issue, but I want you to realize that it's not a single disciplined area to focus, because Scattered Spider and the Calm and Black Cat are so well organized. I don't want to say sophisticated, because deep down, everybody who listens to this call can commit these crimes. It's not like you need to be a rocket scientist. You just need to have your moral compass set wrong. Because they can come to you at all these different angles, we have to be good at all these different angles to protect. I'll pause here.
So I think that idea of the man-in-the-middle attack is sort of how things kind of get started. I don't want to get too far along here because I don't know if we have really talked about how this works. So I'm curious, or if you could just take me step by step. If I'm a security analyst, a help desk person, whatever it is, and I might be responsible for taking a phone call, and we'll just pick on Jim here. So Jim calls me, but it's not really Jim, right? It's Bizarro Jim. We'll call him.
Yes.
How does ATO Protect work? So I go to the website, and then what? Take me step by step, because I think that'll help maybe make it a little bit clearer as to what we're getting into next.
Cool. I'll start by saying, for those of you who will stick around until the end of this episode, there is a page that Jeff and Jim were very kind to record me, show how this works. So if it interests you, after you're done with your jog, there is a video that you can go watch all this. I'll try to describe it verbally. Let's call the actors by their name. Jeff, you would be the agent, like the IT Help Desk agent, and Jim will be the caller. And of course, you can replace IT Help Desk with HR department, finance department, whoever gets the call. The way it works is this. There are two modalities. One of them, when there is a human taking call, that is the most common thing we do. The other modality is when there's self-service. You call an IVR or you go to a web page and you say, I need to change my password. We can do exactly the same thing without taking the call. When I call, or Jim calls you rather, Jeff, you will tell them first, please get your ID ready. Literally, just like if you were stopped by a policeman and say, okay, show me your driver license and insurance. We believe that in most countries that need to do this, you have access to your ID, even though you might not carry it like in the United States, but you have access to it when you need to do something risky. Or if you're traveling, you should have your passport or something else you've shown the border control. So you should have something like that. The second thing is you would tell the caller that none of this data will be stored. Pretty important, because we don't want to become part of the problem. And the third thing is you'll ask the caller, how would you like to get this URL that will help you with your mobile browser begin the journey? You can ask why reduce it all to a URL? I'll go back to what I said 5 minutes ago. If you're on a vacation somewhere in the world and your phone drowned in the ocean, what we can expect you to have is a new phone out of the box with Wi-Fi connected to it. And if you can get an email to it or a URL to it, you should be able to do this. It is specifically designed to have the minimum viable technical know-how or ability, because if I'll require you to log into our network to do this, it's a catch-22. You don't have the very thing you need to get it, and that is what causes the issue to begin with. So you would ask me, do I want to get an SMS, an email, or literally just like in a video call like this, you can paste the link into chat, or if there is a video call, you can show me a QR code that I will scan with any camera and essentially bring the caller, Jim in this example, to a page that will allow him to self-service himself, scan the document. What Trusona will do there is verify, for example, if you sent them a text that the phone is not recently SIM swapped, if you sent him a text that he is really the owner of this number and not just lying to you about it. When they scan their document, we would go to numerous authoritative databases, such as in the United States, we can ping the DMVs to ask, did you issue this document? As opposed to, is the font looking good? Or is the template correct? I'll state the obvious. I'm sorry for everybody who might get hurt, but GenAI deepfake have robbed us as an industry from the ability to look at documents and say, oh, this looks fishy now. When I used to be the head of risk in a large credit card company, I relied on this tool. But that was a world before ChatGPT and before Midjourney. Today, I can mimic your voice, your video, image to that effect that unfortunately, it is not simple for AI to detect it and definitely not for the human eye. That was a rhyme, just so you know. I'm starting to get the hang of this. So all this to say, Jeff and Jim, when a call comes in, you ask the person to get ready to identify themselves, and you simply share with them a URL. And from there on, the tool does what it does, including checking if the link has been forwarded. But I'll pause here. We'll get into that later on, because that's another MO of the bad guy, which is man in the middle attacks.
So when I log into this thing, I have two options, right? Or a couple options, I could say. So I can send it SMS, I can send an email, I can send a link. What are the IDs that work? Because I see options here for driver's license and for passport. Yep. So I think that covers most government documents. And then what you're doing behind the scenes, as I understand it, is you're querying DMVs in the United States or other, I guess, registries of that sort of data around the world. What are the limitations when it comes to driver's license and passport? Like what doesn't work?
Yes. So if after this podcast, you will take our challenge, which again, we will unveil at the end, of going to try.trusona.com or trusona.com/identity at the center, IDAC. We will invite you to play with the demo. The demo has the following options: a driver license in the US and Canada, a passport from any country in the world. So that covers every country. And then a few documents from India. That is what we give people to play with for free, because those are the most common. And a UK driver license, we have that. We have 2,500 additional documents from many different countries. So Philippines, China, Costa Rica. We just don't put it in the default demo, because then the combo box will just be, endless. We have customers who are using up to 20 countries at the same time. The question is, Jeff, not where we can scan a document. That we can do in any country, because passports by design are any country. The question is, where can you verify that this is legit? So I'll go slow. Let's take the United States, which is the best country to do this in. It is still not perfect. Why? For all kinds of reasons, states like California and New York have decided not to allow vendors like Trusona to ping them and verify identities. They allow the Social Security Administration to do it. So the data is there, but they don't allow it for commercial use. So in the United States, we can verify literally with the authoritative data sources about 80% of the population. Pretty good. What we do for the other 20, so if you do come to us with a driver license from California, we triangulate it differently. We still scan the document because it's hard to mimic the PDF 417. And for the uninitiated, it is the 2D barcode on the back of your driver license that has a machine-readable payload. And instead of asking the California DMV, hey, did you issue this? Is this real? We would ask you for your mobile number and then ask the telephone company, is this identity of Jim Steadman with this date of birth and address matching whoever owns this phone? So we're replacing the authoritative source with the next best thing. In India or the UK, we replaced the DMV with LexisNexis, with one of our data providers. And of course, we can add more. In India, you can go to some government databases. In Costa Rica, you can query the voter ID database. There are different configurations. The key is that you will not be blind, meaning what? When Jim calls you today, before you have ATO Protect, he can just social engineer you and tell you, I am who I say I am, because you have no semblance of control as to, is he telling me the truth? But when you start scanning documents and you have the triangulation, and then we have the device information telling us what time zone this device is configured in, and I can ask Jim to click on a button we added that gives his GPS location with permission, all these pixels create a picture of, is it likely to be Jim at his house begging me to get him in? Or it's somebody all over the world who's just trying to masquerade who they really are.
So I see as an admin or whoever logged into this, I see a bunch of these pieces of information. The goal here is to give me enough pieces of information to say, do I think this is really Ori or Jim calling versus maybe someone else? And so as I have these combinations of pieces of data, right? So I'm looking at the screen right now and it's, the IP address, the country, the IP region, the browser. But in addition to that, I see literally a map that shows me where things are coming from. And then I see, different parts of the data that you've checked from either a DMV or LexisNexis or even the MVO, the mobile network operator, right? MNVO. So all of this combined kind of gives me a picture to say, oh, okay, I have pretty reasonable assurance based on this that I have the right person on the phone, that I'm transacting in a relatively secure way. The man in the middle, if I was outside of that, so let's say I did something and I got two people on the phone. We're going to try and trick Ori out of his money. I call Ori up and I say, hey, I'm the help desk. And then maybe Jim's got something else on the line. Yep. And I'm just like, give me the code, right? That I'm going to send you. Because this is the common way they do it is they say, I'm going to send you a code. And then you read the code. And then despite every single SMS and vendor out there saying, we will never ask you for your code, what do people do? They read the code to the person that's going to, take their money. So when I read that code in, now it's coming in from a different IP source, right? Or a different geolocation. And so I see this on the map, and this is something, again, Trusona.com/IDAC, go watch the demo there. That I see that information, and now I can start to raise some reasonable doubt around whether this is legitimate or not. Is that a fair way to put this?
It's absolutely a fair way. I'll give you two more anecdotes. One is iPhones use what's called private relay. It's a type of a VPN. And even though Jim called you and say, hey, I'm at my house, his phone will tell you he's not at his house. So for cases like that, even though the IP, a la carte would not reveal the truth, you can ask Jim to click on this extra button with permission to say, hey, tell me where your phone really is. And then if that is within 100 feet of where the driver license of your home address is, let me tell you, Jeff, he is at his house because you can't be elsewhere doing this. The second is the man in the middle works when people get the payload, let's just say from the bank, and they cannot respond to it because they're not the real customer. Now they put the bank on hold. Let me give you the most common, I use that in the demo, the most common excuses we hear on calls. My baby is crying, I'll be back. My dog is barking, like always play something else. And the latest one is Amazon is knocking at my door, I'll be right back. But all these are just excuses to put the call on mute so the bank or the IT help desk doesn't hear that you are now puppeteering someone else. And you basically call the victim and say, hi, I'm calling you from the bank. We think there's fraud in your account. I'm going to forward you this link that you got. It's just that you can't act on it. Could you please load it in your browser and scan your ID? Because then I will know it's you and we can... And the people are freaking out. The bank is calling them. Sounds really serious. You don't even know you're being puppeteered. So what our tool does, based on knowing how the bad guys operate, is it takes a fingerprint every time the link is loaded. And then you, even though you're on mute, because the person gave you, you see on the map all these different households and devices pop up. You say, okay, I know one thing for sure. I'm not talking to Jim McDonald on his own. He is not in 5 different locations. There is quantum stuff happening in entanglement, but this ain't it.
Not yet, anyway. And
not yet, yes.
So this is the part that kind of really kind of sold it for me as I kind of looked at it was, okay, I'm looking, and this is not a very hard thing to do for me as an admin. I see it as very easy. It's showing me literally a map. And when we tested this out the other day, we had your information and you were kind enough to kind of go through this with us. And that's where that demo is we see your information. And then we had, okay, well, Jim, go ahead and click, the link again. And all of a sudden across the world, right, the map zooms out and says, okay, well, wait a second. Why did we start in Arizona and then end up in South Dakota? Well,
exactly.
That's a flag right there. And so I think this kind of brings home a little bit some of that man in the middle, because we thought of ways, okay, well, and Ori, you were very gracious, like try and break it. Okay, well, let me think of ways to do it. Now, I'm not a professional penetration tester, so that's where we'll talk about maybe later. People can kind of, help with that. But the first thing I thought of was, okay, well, what happens if I intercept the man in the middle type of thing, right? Email, text, whatever it may be. Another one was, okay, well, the whole liveness check, right? There's been, well, I can just hold up a picture to my camera, right? And it will do that. Well, if you blink, that must be enough liveness. Okay, well, that's not, good enough. And so now we're saying, okay, you're scanning the document. You're saying, okay, you're checking it against known sources of good information. You're combining pieces of information from multiple sources. So if I were to tamper with one, the odds of being able to do both become less and less. Now they're never zero, right?
And without being suspected as SIM swapping.
Yes.
Let me reverse it and tell you, here's how you can beat it. Like, let me give all the listeners the recipe just so you understand what your task is, and then you'll see how monumental it is. You'll hear at the end of this podcast that we're going to give you a challenge, hack the box. And it's a very simple ask. You need to log into our tool, play with it. And if the tool will say that it is me, meaning you can scan a document that would pass all the checks with the DMV to say, yeah, this is Ori's real driver license. And you will not trip, hey, we just SIM swapped his phone. And my telephone company will say that this, if it all matches and there's no SIM swap and no man in the middle, you have beaten it. Okay? And we can talk about how to claim your prize. What you can't do easily, Jeff and Jim, is plant records in official databases. You can clone my ID. You can do that if you know what to do, because my record is there. You have to be able to do it in a way that is not caught. This is really the hurdle. The next level is exactly what you said, is how do I do it without SIM swapping or man in the middle, which really are trying to puppeteer somebody with social engineering to do it for me. And the last leg of the stool is this. There is 5% of the listeners who at this point are thinking a thought. So let me just tell you what they're thinking. Wait a second. I know how to break this. Didn't you say that you need to send the link? And then I will see that multiple people... Yeah, I'm revealing to you a method. But here's what I'm not going to reveal. Just so you know, we thought about it. And you will only learn about this if you're a customer in our training. What happens if the bad guy doesn't click the link and only send it to you? I just say the word so you know we thought about it. You did not find a gaping hole? Not yet. But that we only train customers because we do want to stay in business.
You can just tell Jeff and I, that way we can go ahead and steal your idea. And I mean, I think this is genius because I think the industry's answer for identity verification is the document verification, the liveness testing, and I mean, that's built into your product, but it's more than that, right? It's then the geolocation angle as well. So there's two forms of assurance that go into kind of this risk modeling.
Yeah, we think about it as 5 disparate sets of signals. Some of them come from the device itself, Jim. So your browser can tell me what language it's configured in. And if it says Russian, you can tell me all day long that you live not there, right? So that's one set of signals. The second is, as you said, from the scan of the document itself. The third is from the data verifiers. So even if you fake the document pretty good visually, the verifier will say, well, I don't have this document in my records because it's a synthetic identity. The third will be all the man-in-the-middle detection to know, did you forward something else? And the fifth, I know we didn't talk about it much, but it's what we said before. How would you know if somebody is calling your employee and tell them, hey, I'm calling you from IT, I need you to do something? So that is, again, another module in the ATO Protect suite that companies can advertise either to their customers or to their employees on an intranet and say, if ever you get a call from us, this is how you would know it's really coming from the company as opposed to believing somebody who's done a social engineering.
I'll talk us through that because that's actually something that was on my mind. I had my bank, I know we're talking about the workforce example, but I had my bank call me the other day and they kind of wanted to jump right into the details. And I believed it was them because I was just interacting with them, right? But the scenario was they called me. So it could have been anybody calling me.
Yeah.
Imagine if someone calls you, Ori, and says, I'm calling from the help desk, and you're like, okay, that is my company's help desk now. And they start asking you for information. I mean, how can you, how, as the person who received that call, use your product to verify that, this is legit?
Yep. I'll take a second to give some kudos to we call them the ninjas at Trusonas. Those are the engineers that sit with me and the product management team and say, listen, the problem is thus. How do you solve it? I'll be honest with you. I've been in this industry for 24 years. I did not think there's a solution to this. I honestly did not. Actually, I didn't even spend time figuring this out because it seemed so, well, how could you? Thank God we thought of something. It's now patent pending, so I can talk about it freely. If you'll have time to see the demo, we're demonstrating it there. But it works like this, Jim. If you went to the Trusona.com website right now and scrolled all the way to the bottom of it, on the right-hand side, there's a link called Agent Verify. And we would recommend companies that have consumers and employees have a similar link on their homepage. So everybody knows it's there, both the bad guys and the good guys. And the law or the rule would be simple. If you get a phone call that claims to be from the company, whether you're working here or you're a customer, go there, click it, and ask the person on the phone for a simple thing. Give me your Agent Verify code. If truly they are calling you from the company, our tool will give them a 6-digit code that is a one-time thing, and then they can see I am talking to Jeff, and after that, this code will not work again. And it's the first time that we can give a simple instruction without any technical know-how or buying something for the consumer to do, that you have a tool to fight this. And unfortunately, this is the only thing we know of. Everybody else who buys this and understand how it works knows that my employee can forget to do it. I will tell you that as well. My mom may not remember to go do it. I get that. But at least now you have a way to prove to somebody that you're calling them, especially if you have a personal banker that wants to help you with a wire. And they are calling to help you, but at the same time, they need to identify themselves. If IT wants to call you and help you while you're stuck, you want to get that help, but you also want to make sure that it is really them calling you. So this will be the way to prove to both sides that you're talking to the right person with this feature that is included in the umbrella of ATO Protect.
Oh, that's really great. I actually had a question. You brought up that topic, and I did have a follow-up there, but when you were talking earlier about the geolocation, I wanted to get this question in. So if somebody is, say the hacker, the man in the middle, is using VPN software, do you accommodate for that? Yeah. I mean, Ori, what I think is cool was like coming into this session, you said, throw away the script.
Yeah.
Go ahead and like try to stump me.
Yeah.
So this was my attempt. Now like I'm not based on I could be calling you from Russia using a VPN, voice over IP.
Right.
How did your software stop that?
Great. So you can't stop somebody from using a VPN, but we do help you uncover it and solve it 2 ways. One of them, we have a list of VPNs. Either they're the beautiful ones from Apple. There's an IP range that you can say, okay, you're using iCloud Relay, and that's just a toggle. If it's one of your employees and you really wanted to know where they are, you just tell them, hey, can I give you instructions of how to turn it off momentarily? Because I want to make, and no employee should argue about that because they really want to make sure the company is safe. The other one is a VPN, like a NordVPN, that you can come from any country in the world. But hear me out, Jim. If you wanted to get privileged access and you called in and says, hey, I'm working from our whatever office or from my home, once you scan your driver license, it has your home address. So if I now ask you to click on reveal your GPS location, and that is like 20 miles from that address, there's a problem. Our tool can show you those two, the driver license address and the GPS, within 100 feet of each other. And you have every reason to think that the person is there. I'll give you one more thing that we do. And again, not revealing any methods that will help the bad guys. Some companies are so large that they have 5 different IT help desks in different countries. So what do you do then? We allow them to associate the C blocks of those different areas so that you can tell, hey, this person who's asking for help is coming from an internal IP address of the company, which again would lower the guard, not completely, but give you a reason to think that you're not talking to somebody who's just talking to you out of the blue. And lastly, if somebody at the company does use VPN because they want to stream some stuff, hey, we all do it, it's fine. You can simply tell them, for this call, I'm asking you to turn it off. And if they give you any resistance, that is immediate reason for you to pause and say, okay, I need to use more security on this call versus less. Because if somebody really works here and they don't want to masquerade as somebody else, there's no reason for them to not listen to your ask so that you can give them service.
I think it's such a fascinating approach to this. Is you're collecting all these signals, from all these different areas and kind of combining to it. Jim and I have been consulting now together for 10 years, him much longer in his advanced age. But this is a question that, has constantly come up, is how do you validate people calling the help desk? And, for the last 8 years or so, there hasn't been the last 10 years, there hasn't really been an answer. I remember being on these calls before as a help desk agent doing password resets, and this is a very interesting solution. So I would definitely encourage people, go check it out, trusona.com/IDAC. There's a whole demo there. And, we're most of our listeners are listeners, right? They're not seeing things happening and stuff like that. So we're trying to describe it as we go along, but it is a very, very cool solution. I want to kind of take us into the future here a little bit with a little bit of time that we've got left. What do you think is the next battleground when it comes to this type of thing, right? It's really identity verification. It's how do I make sure this is really Ori and not, the Google VO2 or the Meta, what do they call it, EMU model, right? Whatever AV AI thing that I can create that would say, oh, yeah, that sure looks and sounds like Ori. Let me go ahead and do it for him and take care of his account for him. Yeah. What do you see as next?
Yeah. So Jeff and Jim, I told you that I brought my special effects here just in case the opportunity will arise. So it is, you just asked the question that merits this. So I'm going to have a contrarian view. It's not fun news, but I will share it with your audience of what I think comes next. So unfortunately, it will begin with this sound. I'm happy that I'm at the end of my security career. That's the beginning of the answer. I have a son who's 22 years old, just finished computer science and forensic accounting. He's just getting into this world. And I tell him, I don't know how your generation will handle what comes next. And next is not 20 years. Next is 2 years, 5 years. Here's what I think would happen next. Video Gen AI will become so good that for most people, it will be indistinguishable from live video. That includes sound, which is very important for this topic today. Without mentioning company names, I can tell you I've listened to recordings of CEOs of company because they were interviewed on the TV being voice modulated, and now you can have this voice say anything you want, berating the IT help desk to reset the password. That will only get better with time, not worse. So you won't be able to trust your ears. You won't be able to trust your eyes. You won't be able to trust images that I show you because who knows? So it will, again, rob us as an industry from all those senses, if you want to think about it, that we had for so long. And the next thing, again, that could come, I hope it won't, is any breach of the authoritative data sources. So if you told me today all the DMV's data has been spilled out, we are now going to be in a period of time of just not knowing, leading the blind, until it will be so bad that governments will say, okay, now we need the self-sovereign identity and all the things that we're talking about in futuristic world. I believe we're not there for a simple reason. We did not experience enough pain as a society to say enough with this, we're doing it. Heck, 50 states in the United States cannot agree on what's secure between them. So what do you want the world to do, right? I think we still have more time. We can still do some work, but AI will be the breaking weapon of the bad guys. If they use it well, including writing emails and persuading people with, agents that know how to do that, man, they will have the upper hand. It's just nature of the beast. I don't like saying it. I know people don't like hearing it. But as a defender, as a practitioner, I'm happy that I'm towards the end of my career because I have no idea what comes next and how we will solve it, because things that we held near and dear as sacred will not be with us as the gold standard anymore.
Well, that's a very positive way to end the conversation. But I think this is the realistic way, right? Has always been a cat and mouse game with attacker versus defender and trying to figure out how can we stop one or the other. And it happens on both sides. So as hard as we are trying to defend, the other side just as much is trying to poke holes into that. And there will be new creative ways to do it. AI is just the latest version of it. I mean, we did an entire episode that was all AI, like for us on April 1st. And, it was fine. It sounded okay. And that's me as an amateur spending a little bit of time, training models on my voice and Jim's voice and me telling Jim, no, you got to do it more demonstrably, right? If I have motivation, the tools are absolutely there. The accessibility to be able to do Gen AI to create video, audio, images is so good right now. And it's absolutely scary because what does this lead back to? It's social engineering. Again, the unhappy path, as we've called it for a long time, is that's what people are going to take advantage of. It's usually the way that people get breached or popped or whatever word you want to use to say that bad things have happened. And these are just tools that people are going to use to do that. And so another arrow in that quiver might be something like this: is how do you stop account takeovers as well? Take a look at something like Trusona's ATL Protect. So I'm a big fan of it. I remember when you called me, or I think you shot me a LinkedIn message like a year and a half ago. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, what is this thing? And to see it evolve over the last, like I said, year and a half and see the value of it has been really interesting. So my tip of the cap to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But as I ask you and Jim, I want today to be all about trying to break this, because I feel for everybody who listens to this podcast on the defender side, I would not want to be doing this job today because we don't get paid enough for doing it. But I do have a positive end note, if you don't mind, and I'll use my slide whistle in the fun way just to say this. I believe that some of us will try to fight AI with AI. I already see startups trying to do that. I personally don't believe that that will be the solution because of the cat and mouse issue. 25 years ago, when you bought Norton virus, you were defended from what it knew about, but not from the next thing, right? So unfortunately, it is a way to give you some cover from what's known, but in this world of AI deepfakes, you just don't know what's coming tomorrow. So I just don't know that overall that's the strategy. A way to finish this episode is to think about what we described today and what this tool does as a sort of a Turing test. Hear me out. If we try to fight AI with AI, we're now just fighting CPU with CPU and capacity with capacity. And unfortunately, the bad guys have more money than most companies to do this. What we're trying to do with this tool is to take you out of your comfort zone, Mr. AI, and have you hold the phone in the air and scan something in real life. No AI model can do that. No AI model can generate a record for me in the phone company. No AI model can do a lot of things that we're testing for because it simply doesn't know how. It knows how to do a lot of things, but we're forcing it to do things that human can do easily. So here's the positive sound. But AI will fail miserably. So I don't want people listening to this thinking, oh my God, we're doomed. AI will take over the world. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you put in front of AI the things that it knows how to defend from just with more training, that is not a great strategy. Force it to do the thing it cannot. And now you have a leg to stand on.
Okay, well, you've been teasing this the whole conversation. And so let's talk about how do we break this? And so you're issuing a challenge to whoever's listening. Tell us more about this Hack the Box. What is it? How is it going to work? And I guess just give it the details on it.
So we will go to the website of Trusona /IDAC, Identity at the Center. There you will read a little bit about this demo. You can see a video of it if you don't want to go do it yourself. To hack the box, I'm offering the following thing. Go to our demo, and send us a screenshot of the entire screen, that it would also have a GUID of the transaction you're on, because we need to find it in our systems to see that you did not manufacture one. How's that for thinking like a hacker? Where the DMV and the phone company and all those things do not suspect that it's not my document. And again, I have one. I'm not going to hold it too close to the camera. I'm not going to do that, but I have one. I've done this demo, as you'll see there. But the net of it is, if you can generate a screenshot from our tool that we can verify was a real transaction on our end, and it will say, yep, this is Ori Eisen. It was not me. You get the prize. Now, Jeff and Jim, you can help me pick what the prize will be. I don't want it to be like a gift card or something. It should be something cool. So we will, by the time this episode will post, we'll decide what the prize is.
I think it's such a cool thing. And, being able and open to be able to say, hey, let's figure out better ways to poke a hole in this is great. And I guess be prepared, because I think, hopefully people will check this out and really want to try to figure out how to break it.
Let me say it again. I'm not afraid. Most vendors are afraid to be. It's okay. If you ever listen to Karen Elazari's TED Talk, that hackers are the immune system of the internet, I believe in that. So if you're listening to this podcast, I'm not afraid. I want you to show me where the holes are, because I'd rather fix them if there are and protect the world than not allowing you to test it. I mean, that is not security. There's no security in obscurity. Sorry. I'm asking you, help us see how it can be broken. And if you can't break it, at least be like Jeff and Jim. They were very honorable and say, hey, we couldn't break it easily. Let us at least share it with more people, because if this can help companies to not be broken into, so be it.
I think the other cool thing is, first of all, famous last words, I'm not afraid. So I'm not that courageous, so I will not say that myself. But the other thing I think people should know is if they go to Trusona.com and they click on the try now, you actually get 6 of these, I think, free per month. Per
month. Yep.
And so people can actually try this, try the environment, see how it works.
On their own IDs. You can just see what it would do for you. Literally, it's like a gray box as opposed to a black box. You can see what would happen. But to break it, you need to be me. With a real transaction, then we can chat about the prize. So far, just so you know, no one has been successful trying to do this.
Okay. The challenge has been tossed out there. The gauntlet has been tossed down, whatever analogy you want to use. Ori, I'm a big fan of what you've built here. Very impressed to see how it goes out there. Definitely encourage people, visit Trusona.com/IDAC, and we'll have links in our show notes for people to find that easily, as well as a LinkedIn link for you as well, Ori, for people to reach out and maybe send those screenshots or whatever it may be to say, hey, I got you. But hopefully not. So with that, we'll go ahead and leave it for this week. Ori, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being a supporter of the podcast, and encourage people to visit the website. Visit us on the web, idacpodcast.com. Do all those fun, cool things, like and subscribe, share this with people. And we appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and leave it there for this week. Thanks everyone for watching and or listening, and we'll talk with you all in the next one.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com. See you next time on Identity at the Center.